So what are you actually hearing from people within the White House about how they deal with this going forward?
I think they don't know, and they are now responding to this thing. And I think that they're, I was picking up in the conversations I had some reluctance from people around the president, but now as he has embraced this, that it becomes the thing that they too have to embrace, which is that Charlie Kirk and the death of Charlie Kirk is now the weapon to be used against enemies, all perceived political enemies. And obviously that's incredibly scary, incredibly frightening, and incredibly wrong.
There was a strange moment yesterday, which you may have missed just because of time difference and things, where Donald Trump is asked by a reporter how he's doing, because really this has obviously been a terrible week for him for all sorts of other reasons, which we'll come to in a moment. But he says, how are you doing, with the death of Charlie Kirk? And Trump says, well, I'm actually doing fine. Over there are the trucks they've pulled up. They're here to do the ballroom. I'm very excited about the ballroom. There hasn't been a ballroom in the White House, and we're now building one, as if he'd already moved on. And he was spotted at the Yankees game. Well, he made a big thing of being at the Yankees game, where he was sort of dancing away. And it just felt like he'd immediately moved on. It was very strange behavior.
Well, I think it's also very hard for Trump. And matter of fact, I can't think of an instance, possibly briefly after his own the Butler assassination attempt on him, but he doesn't talk about personal feelings. He never talks about personal feelings. Everything is exterior for Donald Trump. And that's, I think, part of what's happened here is, Charlie Kirk and a lot of the people in the White House knew Charlie Kirk. A lot of people in the MAGA thing. I've met Charlie Kirk a couple of times. Seemed like actually a very personable guy. And I think they knew him. They had strong personal feelings about him. And I think that's very hard to process. And what it has now come for Trump, and I think Trump also knew him, liked him, felt a rapport for him, in that this is now, but because Trump can't express this has become this other thing. It's vengeance for Charlie Kirk. It's the left or the liberals who killed Charlie Kirk. And our commitment now is to going after them. So, once more, it's this weird moment in which everybody seems to be having a great deal of trouble processing this on a normal human level. This is a terrible thing that has happened. It happened because of a disturbed kid with a firearm. And it really has, I think we can argue, very little meaning beyond that. And it is only now that with this reaction, and the MAGA reaction, and the White House's reaction, and Trump's reaction, turning into something else.
Well, and the reaction obviously has been that there was clearly a rush to judgment, the assumption that this was done by someone on the left. The grandmother of the boy who is the alleged killer came out and said they didn't even know any Democrats. This was a MAGA family. They were all supportive of Donald Trump, which also adds to their confusion, I'm sure, into how to respond to it.
Total. Well, I mean, the response began before we even knew, and that's another issue here of that inability to wait to see what happened here. What are the facts here? Then complicated by the whole FBI's response in this, in which they became a laughingstock. I mean, so it's no surprise that Kash Patel and what's his name?
Dan Bongino, his number two.
Yes. I mean, these two guys who have no business being anywhere near a leadership role in the FBI, screwed the whole thing up, a cock-up of enormous proportions. So it becomes necessary somehow to cover that up, or at least somehow distract from the fact that that once again the Trump administration is beset by incompetence.
Well, let me just ask you something though, because they did get the guy. Was it a cock-up of enormous proportions? I mean, 30 hours later after the assassination, the guy is in custody.
Well, because his family called up and said, you better come and get this guy. So that turns out to have almost nothing to do with the FBI. And what the FBI did was muddle the whole thing, set up a situation which immediately fed all kinds of conspiracy theories, violated all protocols in terms of when this was announced, making announcements, everybody rushing onto social media, for their own individual purposes instead of following procedures. And this includes not only Kash Patel, but also Donald Trump. Again, you have to ask the question, or you have to come to the conclusion that this administration is the thing that most characterizes it, is that they hired all kinds of people who shouldn't have been hired to do jobs that they have no experience, which would let them do the jobs in any kind of professional way.
Well, you're certainly right that people ran to social media. I mean, it really is government by social media now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, and I think much of the response here, the response to Charlie Kirk's death is a social media led response. And then much of the current reaction today is a reaction to other people's social media. So, Tucker Carlson did a thing which I saw incredibly fatuous, in which he went down the Twitter or the X accounts of various unnamed people of no consequence whatsoever who were saying things that he felt were inappropriate about Charlie Kirk's death. And the point of this is people say inappropriate things all the time. So, and the point here, this is a larger social movement, according to Tucker Carlson, and this is all to demonize now the left. I give up. I mean, nothing makes sense here.
Well, it's also very difficult to understand why they want to live in this world with heightened fear, heightened violence. This just seems a very scary place for America to be going. Well,
I think that there is a conclusion that we can jump to is that they see value for themselves in living in this world. They see value in us against them. They see value in declaring their own righteousness and the absolute opposite for the left or the liberals or the Democrats, whoever the people who are oppose them not for legitimate reasons, but for illegitimate reasons.
To what extent do you think that Charlie Kirk's death and the manner in which it happened at a rally shot at from 200 yards away or 200 feet away, brought back Trump's own experience at Butler, Pennsylvania? I mean, it seems something that everybody skated over.
I mean, it certainly should have. Or you could say, how could it not? How could Trump not see this? But he doesn't seem to be relating to it in that way. I haven't heard a word out of Trump's mouth which suggests that there is a personal connection to a horrifying event here. And I think this is about, he doesn't respond, is incapable of responding personally.